Sandra Avelli. Hey Sandra, how are you today? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm really excited because for years, I think over a decade now, I have been trying to share with you to share your story, and um, and we're going to talk a little bit about how one day you send me the text with an amazing video that you finally share your story. But tell me a little bit about what about our connection. Like, how do you see our friendship and everything that we have gone through in our travels?
Well, we met in the fitness world and then connected through the social media platforms, and I was inspired by you sharing your story and how impactful that was for myself and for others, just being a miracle, a living miracle. And it made me reflect on how blessed I am to still be here as well.
Well, I remember like you sharing your story with me, but part of it was I always asked you like, what about, because I know it's a very tough story to share, but you shared it with me and I felt really privileged about that moment. What was it about my story that kind of opened up your heart to share your story, your testimony with me?
I figured you'd be able to understand, being that you'd survived, and maybe even have some direction for me, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
no, absolutely. And I remember telling you you're going to tell your story someday. You're going to, you're going to inspire women to make some changes. But for everybody that's listening to us, tell me a little bit about your story. Tell me a little bit about what you went through. Um, and of course, we're going to talk about where you are today. Today, you're a trainer. You have multiple companies, but you inspire a lot of people. You also donate your time for other charities and organizations to help with domestic violence. There's so much that you do. You're writing your book. There's so many amazing things that are coming in the future because you finally found your strength and your voice to move forward. So tell us a little bit about that moment, your story, your testimony, so the audience can know more about you.
Okay, so I was a teen mother. I got married at 19 after having my first child at 17. Um, to an older man. He was 13 years older than me. I didn't really know his age at the time, um, but it became a very controlling, manipulative relationship. There was a lot of cheating. There was a lot of physical, verbal, mental abuse. And it came to a point where I was finally done with the relationship. I'd had enough after having a child with him. Um, it kind of opened my eyes as to, this child, because he had used my family as leverage to keep me there. Um, there were threats of, well, if you leave, I'm going to do something to your mother or to your other son, and I would stay. And this seems to be a problem with a lot of people. The question I get a lot is, why would you stay in a situation where you're being abused? Why would you
Right.
stay when you're being threatened? Why would you stay when you're being beaten? And I felt in some ways I was protecting my family by sacrificing myself. Um, but finally, I had a network of support, some close friends that helped me actually be able to physically leave him. And we had worked out an agreement for visitation with our son. And one night, he was supposed to bring our son back to me. And he showed up on my doorstep in his pajamas, um, which I was a little disturbed by them. Like, this is a red flag. Why are you here in your pajamas? And where's our son? And he pushed his way inside. He noticed that I had put a security system in. And I did it. I was trying to take all the precautions because of our experience, because of the threats. I was trying to be cautious and had taken a gun course and had firearms in my house that were loaded because I was afraid, and rightfully so. When he came in the house, he started looking through my things. He found receipts for the guns that I purchased, and then where are they? I don't have them anymore. I pawned them. I was just coming up with anything because I obviously didn't want to have him have them in his hands. He had looked through my things, found one of the guns that I had in my bedroom. He's like, where are the other ones? I know they're here. He ended up hitting me with the barrel of the gun on that one. So I went down. The other one was in my car. And I had a single stall garage. So when you go down the stairs, you have to walk behind the door to get in. The two people really can't fit back there. So I was faced with a situation where I know this gun is loaded, but I know he's got a gun facing me also. And am I really willing to pull a trigger and have a shootout, or have my kids lose me or him or both of us? Maybe we can reason this out. So I took it out, brought it back to him, gave it to him, and then he went back up the stairs and he found the 12 gauge shotgun that was loaded in my coat closet.
Wow.
At this point, I'm begging and pleading with him, telling him everything's going to be okay. We can work this out. We can get help. Just anything I can think of to try to make things not end the way he was planning. He came to a point where he put me on his knees in front of him, and he pumped the shotgun, and he pointed it at me and said, I won't say it because I don't want to repeat those words right now. Basically, he said, it's your time. And I begged and begged, and he pulled the trigger, and I heard click, and I lost all control of my bodily functions. I thought that was like the end. And then I fell to my knees and started crying. More like curled up. And I thought, okay, he's going to put it down and things are going to be okay now. Okay, I've got to get him out of here. But he ended up opening the gun to make sure that it was loaded. And he closed it and he put it to my head again, and it jammed again.
So two times. Two times he thought of it and tried to take your life. Mm-hmm. And both times the shotgun jammed.
Yes.
And for me, that's when I call divine intervention.
Absolutely.
That's how I saw your life when you share your story for the first time with me. I talk a lot about divine appointments, and I talk a lot about things like that most of the time, but this to me was a divine intervention, that God needed you here, not just for you, but for your kids. And then I share with you that I felt like God needed you to share your story, because it's not just that instance, of domestic violence in your life. It's not just, that one moment. It was multiple moments in your life that you had gone through abuse and then overcame it. And you kept going after, and you kept living your life. You kept fighting to live. And that was the connection between me and you, was that you were fighting to live. And that was, for me, that was the answer that I always give people, is I was given 3 days to live, and I was fighting to live. And that was our connection. That's when I said, okay, Sandra, we're going to be friends for the rest of our lives. It's like, I know that you're a fighter, not just a survivor. And then after all that happened, you left, right? Yes. But you bailed them out of jail.
Not so that I did another other interview I sent you. The timeline was a little bit off. I had bailed another time.
Before this happened, okay.
Yeah, before this time. I left and actually went to stay with my mother's ex-husband, who lived in Texas at the time. And I brought my son. We drove down there. I had my friends pack up my condo. I was like, I can't be in that place. I have to leave. I don't know if he's going to bail out. At this point, I know that there's no going back. There's no recourse from this. I just needed to lay low. And then the fact that I went to the police for him was the biggest betrayal, because you don't do that in his world. That's just not okay. So the fact that I spoke to the police, I knew I had to leave and I needed to protect myself. So I went to Texas and I stayed for a little while. And then I drove back from Texas to Minnesota with my son while I was there. So this happened in November. the original with the gun, and then I was in Texas until December, and then I went back to Minnesota, and he broke into my mom's house. It was in February, and I had my friend's brother was there because my mom was leaving to go to a funeral, and I didn't want to be by myself. I don't think I was ever alone after that, just because I had fear. So he was staying with us, and our son was sick. But he ended up breaking in the house, my mom's house. He put sugar in the gas tank of my vehicle. He slashed the tires. He stabbed my friend's brother with something he found outside, just like a tool of opportunity. And then had threatened us, made it seem like he had people outside waiting for him. And he ended up taking my son and leaving. Or I should say our son. It's our son. I was devastated and sick, and it was on the news that he had taken the child and he was hiding. Finally, it was maybe 10 days later, he met me with him and gave him back to me. The police were asking me to cooperate with him, and at this point, I'm scared to cooperate with anybody. But he ended up, because the case happened in Las Vegas and then in Minnesota, they combined the cases, and he ended up doing 5 years and 5 months.
Correct. So I know people are listening to this and are like, okay, when is enough enough? But if you've never been in a situation where you've been abused, I don't think anyone can understand that. It's like when people say, well, I know how it feels. Really? You know how it feels to have terminal cancer and go through 98 chemotherapies? And, no one can really tell me, no one can really give me the exacts, right, on that. No one can really say, I really can. I understand why people say it, and people probably say the same thing to you. Oh my God, I can relate. No, you can't. You don't know what it is. I've coached probably right now close to 200 women that have been abused, and I still can't relate to their story. And the question is always the same. It's like, when is enough enough? So for me to have you here today, I know that you are writing your book. I know you're telling your story. I know you're donating your time. I know you're reaching out to a lot of women now. What is the advice that we can give to women right now that are in this kind of domestic violence or manipulation or something like this? Maybe not even as drastic as what you're going through. Maybe just signs, right? Red flags that are popping up because you shared those things with me in the past. What is something we can share with people today that maybe gets them to wake up a little bit and say, do I have to be confronted by a gun, right, before, I make a decision? Or even just physical abuse to the point that it changes your life, right? So what is something we can share tonight with people that we can give them some advice?
Trust your instincts, and you're usually right. The first time it happened to me, I was so dumbfounded that, like, wow, I should leave. But then you're not going to be able to change someone else's behavior. You are only responsible for how you respond to it. So taking responsibility for yourself in those circumstances, as hard as it is, but also recognizing that you don't deserve, as much as you start to believe it, to be treated less than anything. And those red flags can start with belittling. It can start with controlling. Don't wear this, don't do this, don't go there, don't talk to this person, let me see your phone, lack of privacy, all those things. Those things are control issues. And if they're controlling you, there's a reason for it. And usually it has nothing to do with you.
Correct. No, this is, again, and when we talk about this, we understand that this is on the other person, that they have things that they haven't resolved in their life. And it's not about you, it's just that you're allowing it because you're the person that they're taking it out on, or controlling, or just even control issues that they want to have. Sandra, I just want to tell you, I commend you for everything you do. I'm so proud of you. Um, the reason that I wanted to share this story with everybody is, it means to me, it means a lot to me when I meet people on my path. Um, she's a competitor. She's been on stages and in fitness. She has opened up her own businesses. She has fought to live her dreams, and that to me is I'm so proud of her for that. I remember one day I was in Spain in my hotel. It was late at night, and I got a text from Sandra. It's been probably a year since I've talked to her, I think, right? Um, and I remember getting that text, and I can't read you the text right now, but what was the message behind it for you, Sandra? Like in terms of when you sent me that message, you sent me the video. She finally did an interview where she shared her story, and she sent me the video, but she sent me a message. I guess in some way I was a vessel or an instrument in your life. So what did you remember about that moment?
I remember knowing or thinking about the fact that you were probably the first person to tell me that you really need to share your story. I mean, I had a pastor that had mentioned that, sharing your testimony, but you were thinking on a broader scale and that I could help more people. And I wanted you to know that, look, I did it. And this is just the beginning. And this is now. And I'm finally doing it. And you inspired me to step forward and actually take that platform and find a purpose for what I went through.
Well, I was in tears when I read the message. I went to the bathroom so I wouldn't wake up my parents. We were on vacation. And I remember watching the video, and it was just genuine, just joy, because I remember the first time I shared my testimony. And it just brought me, like, she finally got it. She finally understands her purpose. She finally is living her purpose. She's finally doing it. And that brought so much joy to me. And the other part of divine intervention was exactly that I wasn't getting texts in Europe. I didn't pay for the plan, but yet your text went through, your video came through, and that was divine intervention. I had to get it at that moment. So Sandra, I'm so proud of you. It's such a blessing. I cannot wait for you to finish your book, finish your story. There is so much more about Sandra's story that we're not even going to go into today. But like I always want everyone in the show, all my guests, I ask them to give me one word that gives you hope, one word that drives you, that inspires you, and define that word. Give it meaning to me and to everyone that's listening to us today. There's a lot of people right now that are feeling hopeless. There's a lot of people that don't know what's going on in the world right now, in their lives, their relationships, financial, health issues. We don't know, right? We're uncertain times. And I asked my guests to give us one word. What is one word that you can give the audience today that gives you hope, that wakes you up in the morning and you're just like, okay, this is my word. But define it for us, because I always say to people, we can have the same word, but your definition, your meaning could be different. And I hope that one person's listening to us today gets it and understands and feels it. And that word kind of goes into their soul and pierces their soul and gives them some hope. What is a word for you? And give us the meaning.
Resolute.
Say it again.
Resolute.
Resolute.
Resolute. Meaning unwavering, staying purposeful, staying driven, and even in times of uncertainty, staying the course and following through.
Well, is there one more thing you want to share with everyone today about your story, but more importantly about what it's taken for you to be where you are today?
It's been a lot of starting over. It's been a lot of hitting bottom and climbing back up. It's been a lot of not giving up, having hope and keeping faith, and trying to adapt and pivot where I need to, and juggling. Like, I am a mother of 4. I have 2 adult children. I have 2 still at home, but I am still striving to be a business owner in a climate where it's uncertain. I still strive to give back and have a heart of service and give to my clients so that they can live their purpose, even if it's not to be on a bigger platform, but to do what is rightly in their heart. Coaching people in fitness is more than just the physical part, as you know. And that to me is very rewarding, to be able to give back in that capacity as well, and be a guide for them. I'm a tour guide is what I tell people. I'm not doing the work. I'm taking you on a tour, on a journey that you're going to.
Amen. Well, I want to thank Sandra for her story, for her word. And I just, the biggest connection for me of the story is her testimony is a divine intervention. The fact that she starts over and over and over, and I know her full story, and I can't wait for her book to come out so she can actually share her full story, is exactly that, is starting over again. In my life, I never really knew what it was to start over again. I just kept going and going and going and going. And if it wasn't until cancer that stopped me in my tracks. I can't even imagine what it is to look at a barrel of a shotgun and not know what's next. And to hear a click and not know what's next. To hear another click and not know what's next. To not know if you're going to be alive in just a second. Your life can change in a second. I remember blacking out after I heard the words cancer. And even though I thought I knew, I didn't know. There are moments in your life that are going to stop you. I pray that it's not a shotgun or a gun or anything like that. I also pray that it's not cancer in your life. But I promise you that it will. We are not invincible, but our faith helps us believe that. And how do you define invincibility? Now I know that my life has a purpose. No matter what happens, if I am not here tomorrow, I know that my life served a purpose, and that made me invincible. Your life, your story will reveal your purpose, and that is a different type of definition. I will tell you though, that when it does happen in your life, just like Sandra, just like me, all you have to do is hit that reset button and start over. And know that there is a purpose to even everything we go through or walk through in life. I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to thank Sandra for her story and her word to continue to give us hope. And as I always say, find hope, have faith, and live every day with a purpose. God bless you, and good night.